Hey everybody, welcome to Rational Passions Last of Us Part 2 gameplay breakdown. I am Alex O'Neill, and I'm joined with my good friend Logan Wilkinson.
Hey, Alex.
Hey Logan. You like The Last of Us, right?
It's a pretty alright game, you know what I mean?
Yeah, some would call it like a 7 out of 10 maybe.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Maybe game of like the month, that kind of thing.
Yeah, depends on your mood. Logan, at E3 2018, we got to see the very, very first gameplay of The Last of Us Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the idea, so we anticipated this was coming.
Yes.
Not disappointed, I would say.
No.
No, I wouldn't use that word at all. We're gonna go through and kind of talk about some things that we saw, some things we noticed, some differences as big fans of The Last of Us.
Very big fans.
And then just kind of talk about it. So, here we go. Let's get right to it. Unfortunately, just for viewers at home, Logan cannot hear the trailer, even though we can. So we're gonna kind of go with it. We're gonna see where the good Lord takes us.
You know, I've done some research. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Only on PlayStation.
Only on PlayStation. I fucking love you, Alex.
As it turns out, Naughty Dog. So we open up, and I'm gonna lower the audio. I apologize, folks at home. They'll be able to hear along with us. We open up at this party. Now
That tent looks familiar.
Yeah, very similar to the tent, I guess, that they did the whole E3 thing for.
Probably just a coincidence, though.
Probably. I feel like maybe they didn't have to do that. Like, I think it's all good fun and whatnot. Maybe they didn't have to do that, but that's.
I mean, here's the thing: as long as they didn't have to move 1,000 people over 25 minutes in the middle of an E3 conference, it's fine.
Yeah, mid-conference. At least they didn't do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
we open up. So I had a theory right off the bat that I presented to you, Logan, during our post show, which you can also view, youtube.com/Irrational Passions. Yeah. And irrationalpassions.com. It should also be up there at some point. That this is, my guess is that this is the Colorado settlement that Joel and Ellie end up at the end of The Last of Us. Just because, as far as we know, that's where they were the last. We do know time has passed since then, so they might not still be there. Who knows?
Yeah, but it makes sense that it'd be like Tommy's kind of like encampment area there in like Colorado.
Yeah, it is. It is the only human settlement that we know Joel and Ellie have kind of found a home for, or a home in, I guess.
And again, it's the last place that we saw them, is right as they were kind of getting there.
And this is our first shot of Ellie not covered in blood. Which is good. She's got her tattoo on her right hand.
Yeah.
Drinking a little alcohol. Hopefully she's of age.
She doesn't look like it.
I mean, yeah, she looks
I think
like...
they've confirmed, actually, that she's 19.
19, yeah. She was 14 in the first game.
Yeah, so 5 years.
So 5 years later.
So definitely not of age.
Yeah.
Unless she's in Mexico.
Well, or a dystopian
England.
North America. Get a nice shot of Ellie here. I love the eyes.
Yes.
And I'm gonna scrub back through here, just like the shifty look here. Big fan. She bites her lip a little bit, like that. Shifty eyes. Intense.
God, this game is gorgeous. Like
intense
just look
graphics.
At that, facial animation there. Like it's and like the shirt collar around here.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
like,
I
you
can
like
do
fuzzes on the shirt.
I've got good news, Logan. I can do frame by frame. Look at the shifty eyes. What's over there? What's over here?
Yeah. Mr. Alex.
We're just gonna do this for the rest of the 45 minutes that this video is actually, and this is an 11-minute video. So strap in, folks, because we're only about 13 seconds. But we see Ellie kind of looking around. Look at that light up.
Look at that happy face she's got in her.
Very, very subtle glow up.
Yeah.
Here. This seems like a good place. A very small smile comes around her lip. Ashley Johnson, obviously returning. I apologize for the notification sound that just came through to listeners. I muted that. You didn't hear it, Logan, but they'll have.
I didn't.
But Ashley Johnson returning.
After her fantastic performance in the first one.
Yes. Ellie, one of my favorite video game characters of all time.
Absolutely, me as well.
So we're in a jolly setting. I like this. I'll just let it play out a little bit here. Drinking a little whiskey, maybe some bourbon. Who knows? She's eyeing this girl, who I already forgot her name. Did you write it down, Logan?
See, here's the thing. I feel like I'm supposed to say yes.
Yeah.
But it's like, I want to say you said it was like Diana.
Dina.
Like Dina.
Remembered. It came back to me. You stirred my memory. That was teamwork right there.
I'm writing it down right now.
Dina.
Dina, like Dino.
Like Dino, but with an A at the end, and also said differently.
And an E.
So we open up to the scene. Interesting. How do you feel about this opening?
I think it's really. I think it's a bold choice, right? Like it seems like it's definitely not the traditional opening they've used for a Last of Us game, either for part 1 or 2. Like it's much more kind of, like you said, happy and jolly, and I feel like it's a really good like thematic opening.
Yeah, because the prime Last of Us opens 20 years after the apocalypse, and it's just not good. We're in kind of a human encampment area, and things are not looking good.
Can confirm, not good.
They're not feeling good, and obviously that opening with Tess and Joel is still very distinct. And I think it's safe to say that I doubt the game itself will open with this scene. This seems pretty deep in, I would actually guess.
I would say, I think it's interesting to talk about this a little bit right now, like how much the game might play with like time jumps, because the trailer kind of alludes to that a little bit. And so like I could see this being in the first act at least still.
Yeah. But keep in mind, like the first act of The Last of Us is very long. Of it's 4 acts. It's very long.
I'm curious. This isn't really like a thing that's been discussed yet, but like, do you think they're going to do 4 seasons again?
I hope so. I really like that format, but also
I do too.
I would understand them wanting to kind of break away from it, just because. But it would be very very cool to see them like open in winter and then kind of go back to winter, as opposed to them opening in summer and going back to summer like they did before. So
yeah, I think that would kind of stay in line with this being a darker game than the first, right, where it ends in like the dead of winter and it begins there too, instead of like kind of the upbeat of the supposed upbeat of summer for the part 1.
Yeah, and also keep in mind The Last of Us was very much like a journey, whereas like this doesn't necessarily seem like it's going for the same thing.
That's my reason why I'm not convinced they will do seasons, is because I don't think this is going to take place over a year like The Last of Us did.
So we, very different than the last time we saw The Last of Us Part 2. Also, keep in mind we saw the very kind of this religious like cult,
super brutal trailer,
attacking a woman, and then another woman also being attacked, and the two of them kind of fighting back after being rescued by a man with a shaved head. And then clickers show up. This is the 3rd time we're seeing The Last of Us. First time we're seeing gameplay. 0 infected in this. It's worth noting.
Yeah, actually I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point.
Only humans, and if anything, the humans here are way more brutal than they've ever been.
Yes.
So now we get introduced to Jesse, friend of Ellie, apparently. And this is that line, big line for us, Logan. Your old man really laid into me today. How do you feel?
So here's the thing. Joel's not dead. And more importantly, as me and Ox said before the show, this definitely confirms 100% he's locked into not to die at any point in the game.
Well,
I think it's important to really savor that, really enjoy that.
Just really enjoy that this confirms 100% he lives through the entire game.
Like, I think, because there's so many rumors about The Last of Us Part 2, because we just don't know that much about it. And so, like, I think you hear some people say that, like, Joel's dead, or his death kind of sets off the events of the game. And as we'll kind of discover as we watch the trailer, I actually think it's not Joel dying or something happening to Joel. I think it might be something happening to this young lady we're about to meet in the trailer.
Yeah. And I'll play this line for our viewers at home again. Louder.
Old man really laid into
Your old man.
Your old man.
That's Joel.
That's Joel. I mean, we have to presume that's Joel. And Ellie does not.
If it's not Joel, that's definitely.
That's weird, right?
Yeah.
Especially because like we very specifically never knew Ellie's father. So,
And the fact that he's confirmed dead too. So
yeah.
What happened?
And she asks him what happened.
About my patrols.
And we hear more about patrols. It seems like there's still tension out there, which makes sense, especially with presumably this being a revenge story. That this
game about hate.
A game about hate. You know, that some kind of violence happens to set off Ellie's quest for revenge. And this is a very dense opening scene. I don't want to necessarily spend too much time on it, just because like I think the gameplay is really exciting.
I agree.
But it is a good introduction to presumably where things are going to start and what Ellie has to lose, more specifically, right? Like we know.
I think adding a new angle of what she has to lose, right? Because I feel like we all knew about Joel and Ellie and that kind of losing that, but it's interesting that they introduce this kind of relationship with this other woman, right? And like that kind of thing that she could lose, that she might even value, if not more than the woman with Joel, then at least maybe as much or like as could be as much as that.
Yeah, love, powerful force, as we know. It is the love that Joel has for Ellie is what kind of decided the very dark ending of The Last of Us Part 1. So obviously I wouldn't be surprised if it fires back in Part 2. So we'll move ahead here to Dina comes up, takes Ellie's drink.
The meeting.
Not
hygienic.
And she so they were toying the conversation beforehand that we kind of skipped over, toying with the idea that Jesse and Dina were together at some point, and that they're going to be back together in a week tops, according to Ellie,
as Ellie says,
which is fun. It gives a kind of high school vibe to these relationships, which I don't think is a bad thing. Also,
when we were at this point in the trailer, did you think we were going to go in the direction we were going to go in?
I suspected because we see Ellie looking at Dina dancing.
I thought it was possible, but I thought it might be a like unrequited love.
Yeah, it is a thing where like you and I apparently are one of few that played The Last of Us DLC, because it did blindside a lot of people that Ellie was gay and like that this was a
spoiler
relationship.
Alert, if you made it this far into the video.
Yeah, spoiler. Like again, you're a little bit past due on that one.
4.5 years.
4.5 years. I do want to say, Logan, we are at 14 minutes recording so far.
Fucking Christ.
But like again, it did not blindside me as much as it did some people. It seems.
Yes, I agree.
Hey.
But I will say, like, we didn't know that their relationship was at that level.
Jesse.
And I don't know. Like I said, it's a little bit of a high school vibe to this, but in a good way.
Yes, sir.
That I'm gonna lower the volume a little bit.
Come on.
I can tell you the moment when I knew what was about to happen. It was right here.
It was right here.
Okay.
Yep.
The hand on butt.
It's the eyes. It's again the eyes is what does it for me.
And it what's
the way they look at each other.
Really cool as we're watching it back here, and I'll play through it frame by frame. If you watch Ellie's face when Dina shows up, she never takes her eyes off Dina. Which is really cool. Again, like a lot of like, look at this look. Look at that look right there.
Yeah. Naughty Dog is such a mash with again these like kind of small moments that are so easy to miss, but like that convey I feel like so much. And she never takes her eyes off her. She never looks away. Never breaks contact. Like, and then again when they get onto that actual dance floor, the way that just eyes are laser focused, locked onto each other.
Yeah. Again, like
it conveys so much.
Ellie doesn't even. This is the most she looks back at Jesse is right there. And it's barely at all. Like, she doesn't even take the time to look over at him.
Oh, yeah.
Until, right, like, kind of there, right? She looks back at him when he's talking.
Because he says something, yeah.
And then she's, like, all eyes on Dina. Yeah. And again, like, look at this. It's the looks when Dina's not looking that are just super great. And I think that speaks volumes to the relationship that they have.
Yes.
Which is cool.
I feel like clearly there's been something for a long time before it's building up to this moment, right? Because as we kind of see, it looks like Ellie is definitely not sure of Dina's feelings about her.
Okay, I have a very serious
and it's really cool. It's one of those things where like we are establishing this relationship in a similar way to how the relationship between Ellie and Joel was established.
That's my favorite scene in the entire trailer.
It's fun. Like, it's jolly.
Yeah.
Which
I think it conveys, again, like kind of that love that we're talking about so much in these games.
Look at those pierced lips. Nervousness.
Yep.
You feel it, you know?
Oh my god.
And it's a thing of, like, you know, we care so much about Ellie because we went through this horrifying adventure with her. And also, like, you know, we lived through that winter with Ellie. Like, you care about
That's,
Ellie.
I think, a key thing, too, yeah.
And you know, look at that hesitation, fear.
I think that's, the fear in her eyes, right? Because I wonder if Ellie being, like, gay is something that the rest of, like, the community knows.
Mm-hmm. Or her just being intimate with this character specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hope that it isn't that she's gay. It's more that the intimacy with Dina specifically. And I like Dina's a woman of mystery, right? We don't know anything about her, but we like her. She seems cool.
Yes. Dina seems awesome.
Yeah, I want to hang out with Dina, and I bet there are a lot of great scenes with Dina until I'm sure she's tragically murdered. Which I think is the other part about this. Like, the rage that we move into is probably because Ellie's going to lose Dina.
The transition, I think, from and it's getting ready to happen, like the camera kind of pans around to like this horrifying scene, and then again, spoiler alert for the trailer, at the end of the trailer, when it kind of snaps back into this moment again, is so, I think, poetic to a T.
Yeah, and it's this trailer was obviously framed specifically of Dina saying, "I think everyone is afraid of you," and Ellie says, "I'm just a girl."
Yes,
and we very clearly it's contrasted with she's more than just that. And this is also like it's an intense makeout sesh right now.
Yeah, and like I know like this isn't a joke either. This is probably the best looking kiss animation I've ever seen in a video game.
Yeah, the cheeks
like
especially.
Yeah, exactly. It's so well done.
And we're not. I don't want to necessarily harp on it, but again, the very very dark transition.
Yes.
And I'll say like it looks like Ellie's hair might be a little bit longer here.
I think time has definitely passed.
Yeah, and obviously to the most brutal, one of the most brutal murders we've ever seen in The Last of Us, just right from the get-go. And there's fury there.
Yeah.
And then we transition just right into gameplay. So like I'm curious, Logan, what you expected from Last of Us Part 2 gameplay?
I mean, I think maybe an evolution a little bit of what they did in Uncharted 4, which I think kind of took some of like Last of Us inspired stuff. Honestly, what we're eventually going to see is way more than like my crazy expectations. Like I think this game is like doing things that I'm like flawed at how well it is blending like cinematic moments and touches with actual gameplay and like fusing them, do like some like seamless stuff in terms of like the dodge animations and the block animations and like the actual like fight animations and then picking up objects. Like I think it does all of it and just staggeringly well.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Like I think if you were, because I don't think this is the extent to which gameplay has changed. I think this is just very very little taste. You can see there's clear inspiration from Uncharted 4 with the bushes and everything. And also we'll see a little bit later of like transitioning from taking an enemy down to taking their weapon, only with melee weapons instead of guns, which was a big part of Uncharted 4. The part that I really loved about Uncharted 4 was how action-packed those like melee transitions were. But you know, just graphically, this is what I expected. This is the quality I expected. So
I still can't believe it as I'm watching it again.
Yeah, it looks very good. And I know there's 4K footage out there for folks watching at home. This is probably going to be rendered in 720. It's probably not going to look as good as it does on my screen right now. So this is very reminiscent of the last trailer we saw.
Yes.
Of The Last of Us Part 2, of the woman tied up and almost hung, or hanged, I guess is the proper term. And including the kind of cultist-looking folks stabbing at the stomach specifically. And yeah, it's
definitely a tease what could have happened to her.
Yeah, it's graphic. We see some intestines laying out. there,
they get
which
disemboweled for sure.
yeah, which is
Just a little bit.
which is not good. And even Ellie says, "Jesus!" after she just stabbed that dude in the neck.
I mean, she didn't disembowel anybody. You know, she's got standards, Alex.
So I will say something I didn't pick up before. We hear a whistle right here, which is what causes these guys. I know you can't hear it, Logan, but we hear a whistle.
Fire out.
We hear a couple of them. They don't sound necessarily like infected sounds. They sound like people, and that's what causes
Maybe
these.
there's a warning that they saw something.
Yeah, it could have been a lookout. And this guy with the hammer is going to come back later. And then we're playing, man. We're going for it. We see Ellie with the trusty bow also. Good to see the bow come back.
Oh, yeah.
Pistol in the back pocket. Also, we'll get to it a little bit. You know, the sound that plays when someone can almost see you? That gave me anxiety flashbacks to The Last of Us. Also, I like this reticle.
Yeah.
It's different.
I haven't really seen anything like that before. Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Gives an idea of the drop. Also, one shot to the body with a bow definitely did not kill anyone on hard mode in Last of Us, so we know Baby is playing this game. I'm just kidding.
Or it's a really upgraded bow.
Or it's a really upgraded bow. Again, that we hear that same kind of foggy noise. I don't know how to describe it here to let us know that somebody can kind of see you.
I'm curious, like, how early into the game do you think this scene is? Like, what we're playing right now?
I would bet this is around a third, either just before or just after. That was my guess. Because we're going to get into the crafting menu in a little bit, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff there.
Yes.
But it could be very early. You know, this could be like the second human fight scene in the game.
I think your kind of era is pretty spot on.
I love this. Just that reaction. And the whoa. It's just very real.
Look at that fire.
Okay, so real quick, there's a lot's going to happen here. It's this moment, this dodge, melee dodge.
Brand new to The Last of Us. Or any Naughty Dog game.
Yeah, they've never been able to dodge before. We don't know how that works, but I assume it feels pretty good.
Yeah.
I imagine it's like timing, you know.
Very cinematic, I think. That's going to be the big thing to go back to. Like, very cinematic and flawless how they do all of these kind of moves.
Yeah, animation is like clearly a huge part of this.
This one, too.
Yeah. And, you know, this is just an ambient fight. I really believe, like, this is just a regular fight.
Yep.
And then this is what I was talking about earlier with transitioning from a melee kill into taking the enemy's weapon. Boom. It's very brutal. Again, always brutal. Yes. The Last of Us has always been brutal. And then it's the same deal we saw from The Last of Us before, of melee weapons having a number of hits before they break. In this case, they break it in his face.
And so a big thing for me, too, with what we just saw is I think what The Last of Us Part 1 does so well is making every kind of encounter and fight seem so, like, epic and grand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we just saw there in Part 2 with those two enemies is that to, like, an even higher degree, where, like, that felt like that was, like, the final boss fight. And in fact, it's the first two enemies for, like, a giant, larger section.
Yeah. And we kind of roll out here, and you brought up, like, this definitely feels a little bit more like Pittsburgh.
Yes.
If familiar, I mean, like, to be fair, any city in The Last of Us could look a lot like this.
Sure. But it's definitely something that we saw, like, a Pittsburgh, Boston, right? And not, like, the kind of fall and winter locations, which are very different.
Yeah, like the university
out east or something, or in a big city.
Yeah, it feels East Coasty. But, you know, like, I don't know. This could be, like, Pacific Northwest. I could also believe that, like a Seattle location. I'm not sure. But the streets are wide. Maybe that lends itself to it being more Seattle. I like this, too. Very reminiscent of Uncharted 4. You go into the leaves, break line of sight, and they lose you. And it's that, again, like, reoccurring stealth. You're not just stuck in combat once you've initiated combat.
But what's cool about that, too, is that they mention, we saw in the grass, and start going to the grass to go, like, look for you, too, right? Like, the AI, as we're going to see, is, like, incredibly intelligent, it seems, in this game.
This moment, especially, where the one person talks to him, she came through here, double back around, and then the guy runs away. And
you
then,
think it's over.
And then she starts looking around.
Under the cars is such a cool touch.
Yeah, we couldn't go under cars before. We've never been able to do that in a Naughty Dog game. So
and enemies would never consider looking under them either to find you too. Like that's such a smart. Again, like the AI in The Last of Us Part 1 is so great, and this one seems like an even more intelligent and like thoughtful AI.
Yeah, and it is very, very much of like, if this is the kind of cramped spaces you can get into, like I'm very curious to see the other kind of cramped spaces. Also, like, I know this is really gross for some people, but like very, very detailed in how like the entry wound on the face is presented, and like also like the back of her head is legitimately blown out. Oh, yeah. It's like grotesque.
I mean,
and
I think
horrific.
the shell bounced on the floor too, as well from the.
Oh
gun.
yeah, I didn't even
Also
see
really
that.
Nice touch, yeah.
Yeah, holy shit! Like, look at that shell.
Yeah.
But like, also, if you look at Ellie's arm, like the reflection of the water underneath. This reminds.
Oh yeah, that's one I didn't see.
It reminds me a lot of that very, very tight, cramped, flaming Jeep scene from Uncharted 4.
Uncharted 4, yeah.
Which is those like 10 seconds in that Jeep are 10 of the best looking video game seconds in all of video games.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other guy who double backed. This is some classic Last of Us shit. Mash square to beat. But also like we had seen that stuff of where like it'll auto aim you onto a target after you break them off. We saw that mostly with infected enemies in The Last of Us, but now we can see it's
I also appreciate how the sights for the gun is also different from Part 1 too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like simple circle and that's it.
Yeah.
Very clean.
Let's see.
I also appreciate it, again, limited ammo being an important factor.
Yes.
She's out of ammo. She's got no more kind of thing, and that's it.
What I'll say, like, what was cool about The Last of Us before, and I'm sure it's still in this game, is when you actually shoot, and your gun is empty, enemies will call out that you're out of bullets, which was in The Last of Us Part 1. Again, I'm sure it's in here. It just isn't called out here. Big thing here, right? Ellie gets shot with an arrow. We see the arrow shaft break off, but we can see the R1 arrow wound next to the health bar.
Oh, yeah.
Which comes back later. It reminds me a lot of Metal Gear Solid 3. I know you didn't play that, Logan, but there was a big system in that game where, depending on the kind of injuries you got, you'd have to deal with them in different ways. Like, you'd have to apply tourniquets and remove bullets and apply medicine and bandages in a specific way. Doesn't seem like this is that intense, which is probably for the better because a lot of people didn't like that in Metal Gear Solid 3. But I like the idea of some injuries having to be dealt with.
Yeah. I also appreciate, as just like a quick thing, how clean this UI is. Like,
yeah.
There's just almost nothing on the entire screen. It's super, super, super nice. Like, they do not mess around. It's just very slick, kind of minimalist, and I think it fits in with the game really well.
Yeah, because Naughty Dog is all about showcasing their graphics. So like they've got their UIs down. Another
also,
great.
We have to talk about this.
Yeah, another just seamless
pickup.
Animation.
Again, the whole just seamless and flawless is so much of what defines this like trailer to me, I think.
Yeah, and we're about to see some animations, not just the one with the car. Of her going under the car, but
her holding hostages, which I don't remember from The Last of Us Part 1.
It is there. I do. It took me a second.
Okay.
It didn't immediately register with me as well. There are definitely moments where you can have someone held hostage at gunpoint, and they will not shoot. This is not the case here.
Yeah, they fucking ice that person.
Yeah, which I think speaks a lot to the kind of enemies that we're fighting in The Last of Us Part 2, or at least in this section. And you can see Ellie looks at her and then looks back at the woman who shot the arrow, and then looks at her friend again. Like, Jesus Christ.
Fuck, they just ice Margaret.
Which I think speaks to, like, I feel like these cultists are going to be probably the main antagonists of The Last of Us Part 2, which is, The Last of Us doesn't have an antagonist, the first one.
Yeah, it kind of changes each season in a lot of ways.
And I like that, this is more focused.
Which I think, again, lends to the fact that it's maybe taking place over a shorter period of time too.
Yeah, different story. I bet Naughty Dog feels real good about their glass shattering tech.
Oh my god,
they got a lot of it in this this very short gameplay loop, and again, I bet they feel really good about it. So she breaks line of sight here, again. And then this is where we see her. You can see the holding R1 animation go up here. This was something that really stuck out to me the first time I watched it. And her you have to sit and hold it to take this arrow out. Now we don't necessarily. I'm curious. I'm actually gonna. I'll go back a little bit. Okay, so like right here, she takes a little bit of damage, and I assume that's because the arrow is still stuck in her body. So I imagine there has to be like a
repercussions.
need. Yeah, the repercussions or punishment for not dealing with these kinds of wounds. And man, this game's really good. I am enjoying this a lot, Logan.
Yeah,
I hope
I'm loving this.
So I imagine like there is a reason why you got to take the time to rip out an arrow shot.
I mean, I think it's interesting to tease beginning of the guy with like a giant axe here. Of The Last of Us Part 1 didn't really have like that many different like powered human enemies. And so it looks like they're kind of introducing that. Like we have like stronger, kind of more heavy type enemies that you're going to encounter along the way.
Yeah.
And then again, one of them has a gun and one of them has an arrow in the back. So even like the enemies that you're all three are very different enemies.
Yes. And they're all looking around in a very smart way. So here's the bit that I really liked. Excuse me. Was because this space, like Last of Us, say what you will about it, it's a 2013 game. There are parts of it that are very video gamey. Like, why can't I go through this space? I like that this game is like, you can just go through there. It's a big deal. Like, I think that kind of feeling that you can squeeze through tight spaces is not a feeling that you get in a Naughty Dog game before.
Or most video games.
Yeah. And it's just it's like something that I think Assassin's Creed has kind of done a little bit of, but you just don't get it here. So now we're about to get into the good stuff.
Yep.
So obviously we see different arrow types.
Yeah.
I'll say I was not expecting when we actually see the explosive arrow go off. I was not expecting for how brutal it was going to be. So I didn't actually get a good look at this. So very similar to Last of Us before. What I like here is silencers for pistols.
Oh, yeah.
Which was not in The Last of Us.
No.
I did not notice that before.
Health kit's still there, yeah.
Health kit's still there, Molotov. I'm sure that'll...
It's laid out differently.
Yeah.
I think I like this more. This looks easier kind of to navigate.
Also, you could not craft arrows in the first game. Big deal.
That's a really good point.
So we're crafting an explosive arrow. I would bet... we got the smoke bomb in the middle there. I imagine if human enemies are going to be more of a focus in The Last of Us Part 2, those will be even more useful. I never really used them in my first playthrough of The Last of Us, but they definitely are clutch in that very final scene in the hospital, I found. Just for your reference, Logan.
I would agree to that.
But yeah, we got scrap, classic scrap. I wonder if this is the same scrap that you use to upgrade your weapons. It'd be cool if like there's like you have to balance that because the symbol looks the same at the very least. And then explosives, gasoline, alcohol, and sharp stuff. I never really got what the scissors stood for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like the blades for that, right? That you can then make like a shiv out of.
Yeah, because you see the pipe there, so you can probably upgrade a melee weapon.
Do you think this is the extent of the crafting or upgrade system?
No, because we definitely see 3 blank slots here. So there's more past that. We don't see the explosive grenades from the first Last of Us, but that's the only thing we don't see. But new stuff is arrows, explosive arrows, silencers for guns, and that's it. So
I'm curious as to how much of that we get to pick like how many different like options to pick, or if there's gonna be like you get these things as the game goes on.
Yeah, I would bet it's laid out similarly to Last of Us Part 1, where you get this thing for the first time. Now this, because to be fair, this happens very fast.
Yes.
Boy, this is brutal. We're gonna go frame by frame here. That woman explodes.
Here's the thing.
You can see the blood hit the ceiling, Logan.
Technically, I mean, yes. That's a little gruesome.
Look at this particle effects, though.
To be fair, they did shoot her first.
Yeah. Fair.
So,
I mean, I think you can see like an ear fly away.
Yeah, you shoot me, I blow you up, I think is an old adage.
Yeah, but again, just the
particle effects are
pretty good.
It's. I mean, like I just want to keep reminding this woman getting split, but like it's for when it goes forward like a frame from here, and it's like the tiny, like look at like oh my god,
You
look
can see
at that one.
the reflection on the ground
Yep.
from the water.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But it's like
Then,
look at the blood splatter on the ceiling. Like
in the ceiling.
yeah, it's you can tell like their blow chunks technology has evolved quite a great deal.
State of the art blow chunks technology.
Yeah, but yeah, like I'll say even like if you look at the left of this stand, you can see blood sprayed across it now.
I was looking at it on the ceiling too.
Yeah, and then obviously
Again, seamless kind of transition to this from running to just tomahawk in the sky.
yeah, and again I can oh man, I didn't notice all the blood on Ellie, both from her
Yeah, I
wounds and
didn't
other
either.
people's wounds. But it very reminiscent of like the other melee kill that we saw. And then we see this big guy, another dodge, which is cool.
Do you think it's gonna be like a parry based kind of thing with that?
I bet it's timing based.
Yeah.
There might be a button. It might be the melee button, or whatever. Now this part's pretty cool too, of like him throwing her through the glass. Again, Naughty Dog taking any opportunity to show off their glass shattering technology. Again, I'm sure they're very proud of this engine. Not that they shouldn't be. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this scene is very brutal. Another dodge there. And
I also like how destructible all of the environments seem too, where
Mm-hmm.
they're just smashing everything and it's actually breaking.
very little touch. I also like that we're in a makeup store. I didn't really realize that. But
You
again,
gotta look good in the apocalypse.
true. And then another perfect squeeze. And I wonder how many just tight environments you can squeeze through. And then she comes at her blind spot, dodge, and then swipe. I imagine like that's just a melee attack. And not like an actual dodge, but like getting in that close, she just missed. And it's still the limited uses on the melee weapons. But honestly, like just this animation of her arrows falling out of her quiver is like really incredible.
And then being able to actually pick them up too.
Yeah, and then like them going somewhere. Yeah, this hit also.
Fucking wreck.
This brutality all around, and I love that like they very intentionally timed out this demo so that you'd be max health at the beginning and low health at the end.
Oh, I didn't even notice how low her health is right now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a really good point.
Also noting that when you shoot enemies, arrow shafts also break off in them. I wonder if they have the same thing where if they were left alone too long, they can remove the
They
arrow
can
shafts.
reheal themselves.
But I love just seeing the arrows sticking out of him. And I also love that the enemy just gives up
Yeah.
at some point. And then we get the brutal finisher.
You think this has to only be for like special enemies though, I would imagine, right?
I wonder,
Yeah.
like the real magic of Naughty Dog is how well they integrate stuff.
Again, seamless transition from like that into like a cinematic moment like this.
Yeah. And I imagine like that might have been a little bit more handcrafted for this demo for E3.
Sure. But still, just how like well done that was.
But yeah, and her hair definitely is shorter
Yes.
or shorter here.
I told you.
And
They should be terrified.
thematic ending of like they should be terrified of seeing this kind of snippet of Ellie's future. And that's
Look
it.
At that smile.
Yeah. Again, the contrast.
I'm here for Ellie being happy.
Yeah, not going to be a lot of it, I bet.
No. In a game about hate, probably not too much.
Probably not too much. But that's The Last of Us Part 2. Coming out sometime. Eventually.
2019, we're gonna just go ahead and say right now.
We can dream. I'm here for it. This game's probably gonna be all right.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Thanks for hanging out with me, Logan.
Absolutely, it's been a blast.
And thanks for watching, everybody.